Yesterday in Fort Myers, you and I discussed your position on employer vaccination mandates here in Naples. NCH has already implemented a vaccine mandate for its employees, and as a result, they've lost about 100 staff members. Will you go after NCH and hospitals with similar positions, and if so, how?
So here's what I think. I think no one should lose their job over these shots. I think we want to protect people's jobs. These are folks that have been working throughout this whole time. They were put in situations where they were exposing themselves to risk knowingly to help others, and they did that, and we considered them heroes just a year ago. Now you're going to let them go by the wayside, and you're not going to let them work anymore and kind of throw them in. And here's the thing, different people have different views on this. I think most of the people in the healthcare industry, the nurses, most of them have recovered from COVID. Most of them have natural immunity. It is strong protection, and then they have other considerations that they have. Man, I think that they should be protected. Now, you're in a situation where, and we're working in my office to figure out what we can do on the state level. People are focusing on the Biden mandate on employers. So you have a company that has 150 people. Biden is now coming in and forcing you to force the employees to do these things. That's obviously going to cause different folks to potentially lose their jobs. It's going to be bad for the employees, and it's going to be bad for the businesses. And that's the kind of the thing that affects most. But they also have an a mandate on any entity that gets Medicare and Medicaid. So they're threatening these hospitals. If you don't do this mandate, you don't get reimbursed from Medicare and Medicaid. Well, the hospitals, you can't do business because most of your patients are Medicare patients, particularly in a place like Southwest Florida. So I think that's unconstitutional what they're doing. I think it's illegal. I don't think they have the authority to just issue these dictates and threaten to pull off. Who knows how much funds that would end up being. So I think a lot of the hospitals are responding to that federal kind of sword of Damocles that the Biden administration has placed over their heads. And what's the results going to be? Exactly what you just said. You're going to have some people that decide to walk away. This is at a time where you have acute shortages in healthcare workers. Now in Florida, yesterday we pointed out, from the time we started our monoclonal antibody program, we have 52 straight days of a decline in COVID-positive patients in hospitals throughout Florida, 57 straight days where the 7-day average of new admissions has declined. Our admissions are down, I think, close to 85% since we did that. So our infection rate is one of the I think it's third or fourth lowest in the country now. But there's still other things that need to be tended to. You know, it's not just COVID. Even at the height, out of like 64,000 beds, you had it's not like most of those were COVID. I mean, it was always less than half. I think it was about a third at the peak statewide. And so you have all these other issues that need to be tended to too. But then when you see Delta has not done waves in other parts of the country yet. It's unfortunately probably going to do that. What are they going to do this? And so I just think it's big. But ultimately, I think the root of that with healthcare is Biden trying to force every pretty much healthcare provider that accepts Medicare or Medicaid. They're threatening to cut that off if you don't impose this mandate. So we're looking at options to be able to fight back against Biden. And then, of course, I just think individual employees should be protected. This is not a time. Just think of Biden. He says, don't make the vaccines divisive. Yeah. Don't make the vaccines divisive. You are trying to take people's jobs away over this issue. You are trying to plunge people into destitution. You are taking away their livelihoods. Nobody else is doing that. You are the one that's being divisive about this. To say to a police officer who's been working this whole time, or a nurse or a firefighter, that now they lose their job, way before there was any vaccines and we even knew what the heck was going on with you go back to March, April 2020, there's so much unknowns. Those guys had to answer the call. Patient comes in, the nurses are there caring for him. Someone calls 911, the police and the fire, they're there. And they had to put themselves on there. And now you're going to toss them aside? So he is the one that's being divisive on this. We believe people should be able to make their own decisions. Yes, ma'am.
That is what a real leader looks like. Oh my gosh. So beautiful to finally see somebody standing up and saying these vaccine mandates, these are cruel, they're evil. These people have been helping our country and working throughout the pandemic, and now you're going to fire cops and first responders and nurses, firefighters, construction workers? Oh, this is so mean. It's so cruel. It's the stupidest. We'll look back in history and see two things. One, the lockdowns, and then the vaccine mandates that led to the firings of thousands of Americans, hundreds of thousands of Americans. Who knows what the total toll will be, as some of the stupidest and cruelest things ever done to our people in this country. God bless Ron DeSantis. It's illegal to have a vaccine mandate in Florida. God bless Ron DeSantis for coming in hard and for blowing Biden's dentures out of his face, Biden's head. But Joe Biden had a very, very full set of depends by the time Ron DeSantis was finished. You are the one taking people's jobs. You are taking away their livelihoods. You are the one being divisive about this, is what Ron DeSantis says. He's exactly correct. If you want to hear what Joe Biden said earlier this week, I'll play you the clip. Here it is. This is Joe Biden saying, I'm not being divisive. Come on, man. You know, I mean that. I'm serious. I'm not being divisive. I'll just take your job and make sure you can't feed your children. Come on, man. Watch.
Let's be clear. Vaccination requirements should not be another issue that divides us. That's why we continue to battle the misinformation that's out there. And companies and communities are stepping up as well to combat the misinformation. Southwest Airlines, at the head of the pilots union and its CEO, dismissed critics who claim vaccination mandates contributed to flight disruptions. School board members, religious leaders, and doctors across the country are fighting misinformation and educating people about the importance of vaccines. All of these efforts are going to help us continue moving the dial to eliminate this disease.